And we're carrying straight back on. We've looked at the first line of dialogue. The second one, spout till you have drenched our steeples. This is an interesting one. You may know this, but if you don't, this is going to be a new language device that you're going to add to your understanding today. And it's the word spout, which, okay, you know what that means, but it's being used in a particular way here. The word spout is a verb, okay, because it's a doing word. That part is obvious, but it's a particular type of verb because verbs come in all different flavors and all different forms and do different things, okay. This particular type of verb is called an imperative verb. An imperative verb, that's on your slide there so you can see how to spell it, and you want to make a note of that. An imperative verb means that the verb, the doing word, is being given as a direct order. It's a direct instruction, a direct order. It's not asking you, it's telling you, do this. And it's the simplest form of verb there is in a way, because if you just say one verb by itself, if I say stop, that's an imperative verb because it's a command or an instruction. If I say go, or if I say walk round the school in one direction only, I'm giving imperative verbs. They are orders, as opposed to saying, Mr. Carter walked round the school in one direction. That's not an imperative verb because that's not a command or an instruction. So hopefully that's really clear, because I've repeated myself a couple of times there, and it's on your slide. A command or an instruction. So why is that interesting? Well, because I think you're getting the hang of now, particularly with regards and in connection to the first line. It's interesting because he is trying, is he not, to establish some power over these storm clouds. He is ordering them what to do. As a moment ago he was saying, I'm a slave, I've got no power. And then in the next breath, he's saying, right, do what I tell you, do what I tell you. Why is this old guy speaking in these terms at this moment? Why is he doing that? Remember, it's a cathartic process. He's getting out his anger, he's getting out his frustration. Well, I think it's a little bit about what's going on inside his own head. He knows that he's lost everything. You've seen the picture of him walking in the wilderness with the rain beating down, okay? But this is him still trying to prove a point, in a way, to himself, perhaps, maybe to his fool, who you remember is the guy who's sort of hiding behind him, a couple of meters behind, who's not really doing much at the moment. Maybe it's to prove a point to the world itself that he still has this power, so he is still throwing about commands, even when he's got no real power. But here I think is the really clever bit. Why does he choose to demonstrate his supposed power in this particular way at this particular moment? Well, isn't it this? Isn't it because the clouds are already raining, the wind is already blowing, the rain is already falling, and the clouds are already spouting, okay? They're already doing it. So if you wanted to make yourself feel a little bit more like you had got lots of power back, you regained some of that control, wouldn't a good way to do that be to, give commands, but command something to do something that it's already doing in the first place? I'm reminded of a scene from Friends, which I know is an old TV show that you guys might not have seen, but there's a scene from Friends where Joey has a pet duck, and the duck is standing there in the middle of the apartment, and he says, look, I've trained my duck is perfectly trained, and he says, look, I'll show you, and he points at the duck who is standing still, and he says, be still, hardly move, be white. And he's just, it's a joke, obviously, funnier in the original version, I'm sure. But this is the point. You point at something, you say, do this, and it's already doing it. That's what Lear is doing. He's pointing at a cloud that is raining and saying, rain! Now, this kind of almost makes me feel some sympathy for him here, because he is so desperate to remind himself of the power that he's got that he's sort of trying to trick himself into thinking, I've still got the power to do this, right? But we can see as the audience that that's not really what's happening here. This is quite a clever little idea here. Moving on to the third line, okay? Your horrible pleasure. I hope that some of you might know the name of the technique or the device that this is, because it's got a great name. As soon as you know this word, it becomes one of your favourite words and favourite devices. And it's on the slide as well, so you can click forward and you can see how to spell it. It's called an oxymoron. An oxymoron. Horrible pleasure. An oxymoron is a great little phrase where you have, it usually works like this. It usually works adjective noun, so it's describing a thing. Adjective noun, horrible pleasure. But the way that the thing is being described seems to be contradictory. Doesn't seem to be the right adjective for the right thing. So famous ones from history are things like terrible beauty, or if you've ever touched something really, really freezing cold and people talk about the burning cold. Those things don't seem to fit together. Burning cold, that's an oxymoron. But if you've ever slapped your hand, in the deepest part of the freezer thing, or touched the ski lift pole or whatever it is, and you go, wow, that's so cold, it feels like you'll know that there's some kind of truth in it. So here, he's talking to the clouds about their horrible pleasure. And really, it's a contradiction, isn't it? How can something be pleasurable, but also be horrible? Well, the fact that it's a contradiction and the fact that it's an oxymoron is very appropriate for this play, because this play is absolutely filled from top to bottom with opposites and contradictions. Shakespeare has made decisions in the way he plots this play and the way he creates his characters, which are deliberately designed to create contradictions and opposites, because everyone is taken to an extreme. King Lear isn't just a powerful guy, he's the king, an extreme position. He's not just a guy, he's an old guy. He's a very, very, very old guy. He's very old, very rich. So everything is very extreme. He's gone from right to there. Instead of, he's quite powerful and now he's lost a bit of power. Everything is being pushed so that they're absolute opposites. He's got daughters, not sons. Why? Because we want to see the difference between, the way men behave and the way women behave, because that's more of an opposite. So everywhere Shakespeare can take an opportunity to, he's doing opposites and contradictions here. There is a scene later in the play where a man is blinded, and then he's further tormented, and he has these other characters around him who are torturing him, and they're telling him that he's on the edge of a cliff and he's about to fall off. But of course, he's not on the edge of the cliff. He's just on the edge of a step, which is a couple of inches. So it's like one extreme taken to the absolute other extreme. Opposites, contradictions, all the way through this play that give it the kind of texture and the flavour that create these sort of extreme emotions. Okay, and so therefore, an oxymoron is a really appropriate kind of device to be used here. Horrible pleasure. What does it mean? How can pleasure be horrible? How can something horrible be pleasurable? Well, it sums up, doesn't it, his feelings at this moment. We've already talked about this important phrase and the explanation of what this feeling is. The cathartic feeling, the feeling of catharsis. Slamming the door is a really horrible, nasty thing to do. It's violent, it's dangerous, you could damage something, you've probably got paint chips for... But at the same time, it makes the person sort of feel a little bit better. He's standing in the rain and he's getting absolutely soaked, but for some reason he's getting all of these emotions out and he's feeling more positive and more sort of profoundly good about it somehow. So these are just 3 examples. If you want to extend yourself and take this further, you can develop it by choosing other interesting moments from this speech, and you can add your own notes and figure out some more analysis if you like, as some extra sort of development work on this moment. I'm going to stop this video now and come back in the 3rd part of this lesson.